What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Floyd Street's Finest, presented by Great Flood Brewing Company. I'm your host, Jeff Greer. Of course, this is a Louisville basketball podcast, and we are coming to you live from the college basketball offseason. Believe it or not, it is here as we give shouts to the Louisville women's basketball team reaching the Final Four. Haley Van Lith delivering an all-time sports quote that we will always appreciate in the media for its blunt honesty and her ability to censor only one of the two swears that she wanted to deliver. An all-time moment. I almost woke up our baby laughing when I heard the quote. But kudos to the Louisville women's basketball team for reaching another Final Four. And I said it a couple years ago, early in their freshman years, and I'm going to stick with this. Haley Van Lith and Olivia Cochran will win a national title for Louisville before their careers are over. If I am wrong, I never said that, but if I'm right, I will be absolutely relentlessly annoying about it for as long as you will think about this prediction. On the men's side, Kansas, of course, winning the national championship. No surprise there. They were one of the better teams all season. And the other teams that I thought were legitimate national title contenders, at least most of them, were knocked out early on in the tournament or earlier in the tournament. So Kansas really looked great against Villanova, and then held off a feisty North Carolina team. Really didn't hold them off. It came back and beat a very good North Carolina team that I think a lot of Louisville fans would agree. I didn't see them making a run like this. Obviously, they're an 8 seed, so most people didn't. But obviously, when you look on paper and you look at the roster that they had in terms of pedigree and who they recruited and who they had on their team, 2 guys who Louisville recruited, and R.J. Davis and Caleb Love on their roster, with Armando Bacot and Brady Manick, it's a really good roster. So not all that surprising that they were the team this year that had the talent, didn't have a great regular season, but really clicked in the tournament, and obviously almost won a national championship. So shouts to Kansas. It's going to be a fascinating offseason in college basketball, not just for Louisville, not just for Kansas, not just for Memphis. There are a number of big name programs that are now wondering what will happen with the IARP, with the NCAA, and the infractions process, all related to the FBI case. I think we would all agree that it is, 1, taken way too long, and 2, I think we're all eager to just see it be over with so we can know what's going to happen and move on from it. Mike James is our guest today on the pod. And Mike, I said a lot in my newsletter. I said in my podcast, I envisioned him, after seeing him in preseason practices, breaking into the rotation. And quite frankly, the way the season went, I think he would have helped Louisville a lot. I don't know how much any player would have changed the total trajectory of the season, given everything that happened off the floor and to do with the coaching side of things. But Mike would have been an impact player for Louisville this past season as a freshman. We talked to him about his rehab process, what the last year was like from the sidelines. Obviously, it was difficult. Where he is in his recovery and rehab, he's past recovering now. He's rehabbing and getting ready to play in the summer workouts. He is getting a lot more strength in his leg. He's on his 2 feet. He's been working out in the gym the past couple months, he says. So he is well on his way to being a guy who participates, if not fully, at least in some aspects of the summertime. And then we'll see where he is in preseason. He's excited about Kenny Payne too, which we talk about, of course, and kind of delve into all of those different little details about Kenny Payne and what he learned from going through the rehab process. It's a lonely life for college kids, especially when they're away from home, who are out for the season. And it's just an interesting conversation there. So thank you so much to Mike James for joining us a second time on the show. He's rapidly catching up to Mike Rutherford and has already far surpassed him as my favorite Mike around these parts. So before we get to that, I just want to say one other thing. It looks like the staff for Kenny Payne is starting to come into clearer view. I would be shocked if Milt Wagner was not an assistant on the staff. I would be shocked at this point if that did not happen. It seems like that is where things are headed. Obviously, that gives Louisville a real shot at his grandson, DJ Wagner, who is by some considered the number one recruit in the 2023 class. Of course, at any point now with recruiting, you have to have an idea of what NIL stuff will look like. And I'm sure that there will be substantial NIL opportunities for a guy like DJ Wagner, who already has NBA people looking at him and a lot of people following his every move. So naturally, if Kenny Payne can land him for his second year roster with this team, that would be mind-blowing, colossal recruiting pull right off the bat for a guy who is just taking the Louisville job. But the first year he's got a team in L. Ellis, Sidney Curry, and Mike James so far that I think he's got some nice pieces, but now they've got a lot of work to do on the recruiting trail. It looks like Nolan Smith also is on his way to Louisville. Reports yesterday that he had accepted the job with the Cardinals and that he is going to be paid handsomely and given a lot of responsibility. But we all know Nolan's connections to the Louisville program through his dad, and certainly would be a significant addition, even though he is a young assistant, not all that experienced. He's a guy who comes with a ton of credibility and certainly is a big name in college basketball circles. And you can kind of see from those three names that Louisville expects to be a very serious deal in personnel gathering, in talent gathering. Now, one thing that I would just say about that third assistant, I'm fascinated by the third assistant. Do they go with someone who's been a head coach previously? Do they go with someone of similar ilk who is a respected assistant elsewhere, who can come and bring credibility with relationships, with recruiting, development, and who knows, X's and O's as well? I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how the rest of this staff shakes out. There have been like 6 names that have been thrown around for 3 jobs. So 6 to 10 names that have been thrown around for 3 jobs. So it's not that easy to figure it out. But I think I feel pretty good that by the time that this podcast is posted on Wednesday morning, we will probably have a much better idea of what those seats look like and who's going to be on Kenny Payne's staff. Absolutely fascinating offseason currently loading for Louisville. So I'm eager to find out what that looks like. And we're going to talk to Mike James here about what his next 2 months look like before he gets ready for team workouts in June. Before we do that, of course, Cards fans, I've got to tell you about Great Flood. Now, you all know they went all out for this sports season. They had all televised men's and women's basketball games and football games at both of their locations, 10% off their drinks. So make sure you go stop over there. Just because the season's is over doesn't mean they forgot about Floyd Street's finest. So go over to the Highlands Tap Room or the Middletown Restaurant and tell them you're a listener of the Floyd Street's Finest podcast. As they relate to you guys, we love hosting you. Can't wait to root along with you as we cheer on our Cardinals. Even in the off season, we'll have some baseball games up over there. Thank you for your loyal support and go Cards. And as a side note, they've expanded their tap room for the first time in 7 years with wine by the glass or bottle. And of course, that liquor and cocktail menu. And at either location on Sundays, this is a great way to spend your Sunday. I just did this. They have mimosas, endless mimosas at both locations. Also, before we move on, I want to tell you a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now is the time. They offer a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. And what sets them apart is they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. Of course, with their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. Now is the time to jump on those futures and figure out what next season looks like in college basketball. I'm waiting. I can't believe we've got people doing these way too early top 25s. The way the rosters are these days, I would have waited like 2 weeks, but that's just me. You can always update it, I guess. Just go to betrivers.com today or download the BetRivers iOS app. You've got to be 21 years or older. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And by the way, I want to tell you a little bit about our friends over at Honey. Our episode today, of course, brought to you by our friends there. The easiest way to save money when shopping on your phone or your computer. Have you ever been in this spot? I know you have, because I have, and everybody else has. So you have too. You're shopping for something online. You get to checkout. It asks you for a promo code. You start Googling, trying to figure one out. How can I save a couple bucks, right? Now with Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. I'm going to pronounce coupon and coupon interchangeably for as long as this podcast exists, just FYI. Honey is the free tool that scours the internet for you and finds the one that fits your card. Here's how it works. You're shopping, you go to checkout, the Honey button pops up, you click apply coupons, you wait a few seconds, you watch the price you pay go down. That simple. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. By getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show, Floyd Street's Finest. I'd never recommend something I don't use. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/March Madness. Try it. Now it's still March Madness. We're in early April, still March Madness. That is honey.com/March Madness. All right. Here's my interview with Mike James. All right, we are now joined by Mike James, who is joining us from campus. It looks like. Mike, how you doing, buddy? You doing okay?
Yes, sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I cannot believe that the college basketball season is already over. It feels like it goes by so fast, and then we have this long break until the next season.
Yeah, it definitely went by fast.
Oof. Were you pulling for anybody in the NCAA tournament with Louisville not in it?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Not at all.
I'm guessing you have friends. You had probably people you knew who were playing in the tournament at some point, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I did, but like it's not my team. Like I'm happy for their success. I'm happy they're in the tournament, but like I want to win it.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. That's a good way to win over Louisville fans. They'll appreciate that answer.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mike, I told a lot of people last summer and into the preseason that you were a guy who had really impressed the coaching staff. Your teammates were really impressed by you. You came in obviously as a highly rated recruit, but you lived up to that billing in practices and workouts to the point where I was convinced that you were going to be on this veteran team, forcing your way into some minutes as the season went on. Obviously disappointed to see you get hurt. What has the last 6, 7, 8 months been like for you in the rehab process?
It's been long for sure. Like that's one thing I can say. It's really been long. It's been hard. Like every day is a grind. Like it's challenging to like really like sit there, watch your teammates play, practice, compete in games, and you not being able to do anything. I can say like it gets lonely sometimes. Like you're by yourself working on some stuff. You're in the weight room by yourself, a lot of one-on-one stuff. But one thing I can say, like it's a process that I'm glad like that I know how it is now. Like I've enjoyed the process. Even though it's been hard, like I've learned from it. I feel like it's made me like smarter, wiser. Like I see the game from a different perspective now. Like all of that comes with it. And then you get down to like getting back stronger. Like you start focusing on your actual injury, and that's a whole nother perspective to it. Like it's a grind every day, but I'm glad like I'm heading towards the end of it. I'm getting better and all that stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I peeped on IG that you're back in the gym looking like you're on 2 feet again. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Like this past like 2 months, I really been getting back in the gym and doing more and more stuff. Like this past like 2 weeks, like I really started to ramp up what I'm doing. A lot more movement, cutting, jumping, longer workouts and all that stuff. And I'm feeling good, man. Like I'm feeling like myself again. Like obviously you're a little restricted as to what you can do coming right back. on there, but I feel like as time goes, as I get my leg back stronger, like I'll start to feel like myself again.
Now, was this forgive me for asking this, I can't remember. Was this the first time that you've had like a long-term injury that you've had to deal with in your career?
Yeah, yeah, but it was like my first time, like first injury that I had like be out months.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you said you learned a lot, kind of along those lines, like about yourself. And for people out there who don't know this, from covering the team the last 8, 9 seasons now, when guys get really badly hurt,
Hmm.
you'd go to practice and like I'd see you sitting there with your little like roller thing for your leg off to the side. And
Yeah,
like you're around the guys, but they're in it and you're like the rest of us kind of watching. It's a
yeah.
hard process. But like, what would you say maybe one or two of the biggest things were that you've learned about yourself going through this?
Uh, I've learned like another side of myself, saying like I would say like mental toughness. Like I've never been out this long before, and like when you're not doing something you love, like sometimes it can get in your head and all that stuff. But I I would say like I've kept myself level headed. I've always kept a high spirit, no matter what I was going through, like that day or like how hard it got being out. Like I feel like I was the same guy every day. I gave energy to the team. I was a good teammate and all that stuff. And like I really didn't know like how I would react being in a situation like
Mhm.
this. And I always wonder like how dudes really carried out this type of process when they're out this long. And like I learned that about myself, and I'm glad like I went through it, and I found this part of myself, because like the ball isn't going to bounce forever.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I'm that same good person like whenever like my career is over. And I think I found that out about myself being out this long.
I mean, I think that's a really good attitude to have.
Yeah,
It's really probably the only way to go about it. And
for sure.
not that there's anything wrong with people who struggle with it, obviously, but you got
Yeah.
to figure out a way through. Um, so what's your next, like, give us your next like 3 months or so. Obviously, typically workouts will start in June, I guess. So maybe your next
Hmm.
2 months. What does that look like before the team gets back on campus and gets into the swing next summer?
I plan to stay up here. Like I think in May, some guys will go home, like see some family and stuff. I'm not completely sure what I'm gonna do, but I'm leaning towards staying here. Just keeping up with my rehab, getting on the court more again, familiarized with like the new staff, whoever comes in, and all that stuff. Just working on my game, just trying to get back to 100% as soon as possible before like we start summer workouts and all that stuff. Like I I got to see my family like last month, so I'm gonna just stay up here and just keep working out, keep getting stronger, keep getting better.
Is there you mentioned the new staff, like what was your process like? Because obviously it's different for you, but you weren't
Mhm.
playing games with the previous guys, and I think we all knew once the end of January hit that there was going to be a coaching change. But
Yeah.
what was your process for kind of following all of this? As you've learned, Louisville is kind of a there's only like 5 or 6 other places in the country where people take college basketball this seriously.
Yeah.
But what was it like following the process? And then I guess what has it been like learning about Kenny Payne?
Um, it's been a crazy process for sure. Like I wasn't if you would have asked me this like the last time we hopped on and talked to each other, like would I be expecting any of this stuff to happen? I would be like, man, you're crazy. Like that's not gonna happen. But
Me
like,
too, honestly, Mike. Me too, man.
it's been exciting, like everybody has great stuff to say about Coach Payne. Obviously he has a resume. And then we added Nolan Smith yesterday, which is exciting. Like I watched Nolan Smith play like when he was at Duke, and then seeing him on the staff all these years, like obviously I know he's a great guy, he's a great coach, so that's a good addition. So like it's been an exciting process and all that stuff. I just been keeping up with it, seeing what everybody has to say about it. Like I had uh like my high school coach and my AAU coach. Um, he's pretty like close with Kenny Payne, and Like he just told me all the good stuff that like everybody else has said about him. Like I haven't heard one bad thing about him. So I'm just excited to get to work with him and all that stuff.
Now, did you? I assume that you have been able to at least meet him and shake his hand and maybe talk to
Yeah,
him a little bit at this point.
yeah, yeah.
What was the what kind of vibe did you get? I've only been around him like once or twice, but he just has like a really laid back, kind of reserved, cool
Yeah,
mentality. It seems like.
he's definitely a cool person, like real down to earth, honest. You know, like I get that type of vibe from him, and you know that's what you want in a college coach. So, um, like the time that we sat down and talked, it was good. And then I met him when he first came, like around the gym. So all that stuff went well for me and him.
Nice. Well, when you look at coaches, and you obviously went through the recruiting process, um, how do you evaluate a coach? Like, what was your process for just kind of getting, do I want to play for this guy or do I not want to play for this guy?
You talking about like when I was getting like recruited, coming down to my decision,
Well, no,
or
I
now?
just mean like in general, like that experience, but also this, like you've had a chance to meet a lot of coaches. Like, how do you
Yeah.
kind of evaluate them and think about, if it's a fit?
Um, Obviously you have to look at like where you would fit in. You know, so that's always a question to ask. You know, style of play, like how they like to play, whether that fits you or not. And then like one thing for me is just a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like a coach should be not not necessarily like a father figure, but like a person like you can like rely on anytime, have a conversation with anytime. You know, like person that's just there for you. And I feel like Kenny Payne is that. Like from everything I heard, like that he's that person. I'm looking forward to building that relationship and all that stuff. But like really that's a big thing for me because you have trust and confidence in your coach and your coach has trust and confidence in you, then I feel like you can do anything on the court as long as you put the work in and you're prepared for it.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that he said too. Like he's gonna give us players confidence, and we just gotta have confidence in him as well and put the work in. So, you know, I'm excited about it. Like those are the things I really look for in a coach, and so far that's everything. Like everybody has said those qualities about him, and I'm just excited to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. And I would think that's especially big being so far away from home. I mean, to
Yeah.
know that you've got somebody in your corner. Um,
Sure.
Last two things then. One is, when you start to have the freedom to think about the basketball side again, now that your rehab has gone the way it has and you're feeling
Mm.
a lot better, what are maybe your goals for the next year? You mentioned being in the NCAA tournament and competing there, but personally, and I guess as a team as well, what are your goals for this coming year, calendar year, I should say?
Personally, like for myself, I just want to be back 100%, like feel like myself again. Obviously, like an injury like this takes a toll on your body. It may like take away your athleticism, but I'm just trying to get back to like feeling like myself. You know, like I really been working on my shooting. Uh, I want to like see an improvement in my shooting coming back and all that stuff. You know, obviously, I want to make an impact, like being in a lineup, make an impact this season, like I was planning on last season.
Mhm.
As for the team, you know, is win as many games as possible, win the ACC tournament, go to the tournament, make a run, hopefully win the NCAA tournament. Like, you know, that's always the goal. Winning is the number one priority. I think like when the team is winning, everybody looks good. And you know, like that should be everybody's goal on the team. So yeah, those that's pretty much it.
Well, you speaking of the team, you've got Sid Curry back. You've got L. Ellis coming back as well. What's the Mike James approach here? You're going to start making some phone calls. You're trying to get people to Louisville. What's the detail on trying to get more guys on this roster?
If I mean if coach asked me to, like I would, but I believe like he's a good recruiter.
Mhm.
Coach Nolan's a good recruiter. I feel like they'll take care of it and get the right guys on the team for us to be really good.
Yeah, I think that's that's what they're known for. So
Yeah,
we'll see how that shakes out. Well,
yeah,
Mike, it killed me 2 years ago. Charles Minlin, a guy who was here, I don't know if you ever met him, but the guy
yeah,
he was here the season before. It killed me going to practices and seeing him on the sideline having to watch. It killed me having to see you on the sidelines watching, knowing how much you love playing. But it sounds like things have progressed really well, and you were in a good place. So I'm happy to hear that, and I know a lot of Louisville fans are happy to have you back for this coming season. So thank you for a few minutes of your time, my man, and best of luck as you get ready for these summer workouts.
yes, sir. Appreciate that.